He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of STORYPOWER TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
I remember working with a trainer one time, and the trainer said, well, all you've got to do to lose weight is this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and take this out of your diet and get that out of your diet and do these kind of exercise and get more cardio in. And in order to do more cardio, you got to do this and this and this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'd almost rather be fat. The instructions to get skinny are so complicated, so convoluted. It takes so much work and so much effort and so much understanding. It's like I have to have a whole new degree program. And it's not just getting skinny that has that kind of problem. It's growing spiritually. It's personal development. It's building a website. It's downloading an email program. Everything has 92 steps to it, or so it seems. And if you're the kind of leader, communicator, influencer who has new strategies, new ideas for people, that's not the kind of call to action that you want to give them. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. The number of people that have these perfect little stories and then the perfect little point at the end and then a call to action that's just a train wreck, it really does amaze me. But the one thing that amazes me more than that is a leader, a communicator, an influencer who tells a story and it makes no point. I was on a call just the other day with somebody who had a beautiful story. I mean, everything about the story was incredible. It was well told. It was a great, storyline. It was a great through line from the beginning to the end. Here's what happened, et cetera, et cetera. But when they got to the end of the story, we're like, okay, and then what? That silly question. Why did you tell us that story? I mean, of all the stories you could have told, all the things through the course of your life, this is the story you chose to tell today. And why? Were we supposed to get something out of that? Were we supposed to learn something new from that? Was it meant to motivate us, to inspire us, to challenge us, to bring a new strategy into our life? Well, if it was intended to do any of those, then it failed at, well, all of those. It was an entertaining story. It was well told, but comedians are about the only ones that get away with not having a point with telling a story. And even a comedian at least has a punchline. I mean, at least when they lead you down the path of a story and then they change directions, at least you get a laugh out of it. That's the payoff. That's not really a point, but it is the payoff. But a communicator who tells a story and never gets to a point, what's the point of the story? Was it just cathartic for you? Was it meant to be entertaining or inspiring for us, but not really have a point? I think it's really frustrating. In fact, John Candy and Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. John Candy had told dozens and dozens of stories, anecdotes, excuses, whatever you want to call them. And at one point, Steve Martin turns to him and says, do me a favor. The next time you feel compelled to tell one of these little stories of yours, have a point. It makes it so much more pleasurable for the listener. It is amazing how many people miss that intention when telling a story. Well, how do they get there? They get there because when they started telling the story, when they decided this story was worth telling, they didn't ask themselves, to whom would I tell it and why? They just decided it's an entertaining story, it's a funny moment for me, or maybe they were prompted by the environment they were in, by the people they were surrounded by the story someone else told. But they haven't yet pounded on that story. They haven't spent enough time with that story. As John Maxwell says, when you have a new idea, take it out for a walk. Walk it around the block. Let people look at it like your ugly dog and see how many people think, oh, that's an adorable dog, or that thing is hideous. Keep it at home. If your story, if your ideas don't float well in public, maybe they're just meant for you. And that's fine. Maybe they're lessons you were meant to learn and nobody else cares to learn them. Or nobody else is going to react to them as you've packaged them now. That's why you've got to take that story and just keep working on it. It's like kneading the dough when you're making pizza. If you don't take the time to knead the dough and let the air in, it doesn't rise properly. You end up like somewhere between a matzo ball and a hard cracker. If you don't knead the dough of your story, you're going to end up somewhere in the middle of a strange bread concoction as well. Tough to chew on, hard to swallow. That's not the kind of story you want to tell. But see, right behind telling a story like that, you also have to have a point. A point that's relevant to the audience in front of you. Now, if you've missed them, go back in this Story Power series of the Leading Leaders podcast. All of the lessons from the beginning of 2024, this first 90 days, were focused on story power. You can go back and look for the ones that talk about roar. Look for the ones that talk about the 4 eyes. These are some qualifiers for your story, the guardrails, the foundation, the forms in which you can pour the concrete of your foundation of your story to build up. And roar, be relevant, have ownership, speak with authority, be responsible for how your audience feels. That's what it means to roar. There's some good teaching in that 30-minute podcast, and it will give you some really good groundwork on how do you prepare this story to have a point. How do you relate the story to the point in such a way that people feel like what you've just told them is worth listening to because you're qualified? The 4 eyes. Have you invested in your story? Have you gone through the emotional work of telling this story because, well, telling it might make you cry? That's just a reality. It's a good way to sense that your story has some emotion in it that's going to connect with an audience, but you're going to have to invest in it. You're going to have to tell it enough times that you can tell the truth, even when it hurts you to tell it. And you can tell it in such a way that it's not intentionally offensive to others, but it has some merit and some meat to it. But see, you've also got to be able to influence and impact and inspire your audience. Those are the 4 eyes: influence, impact, inspiration, and investment. And if you're not going to spend the time with those things in your story, then you may just tell it because it makes you feel good, but there's no guarantee it's going to bring about change in anybody else's life. You're not really investing that story in them. You're just telling it because you like it. Once you've prepared that story, you've pounded on it, you've kneaded it, you've asked the question, is the point that I want to make relevant? Have I made an investment in it? Will it make an investment in other people? Now you got to make that big swing, that big leap into the next portion of your story, and that is the call to action. What do I want you to do? Now that you've heard a story that connected with your heart, that connected with your mind, that made you feel like that was a lesson I needed to learn, or that was a lesson I learned, but I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. I mean, I had the same experience, but what do I do with this information now? Oh, and you've gotten to the point and they're like, yes, that's the same kind of discovery I had, but I'm still lost in that discovery. I mean, I get it, but what do I do? I mean, I realize I've spent a whole lot of money on websites. I've spent a whole lot of money on marketing. I've spent a whole lot of money on courses and coaches and books, and I still haven't made the move that I want to make. So if you're telling me that that's your story and the point of the story is there's a better way, then what's the better way? What do I do? How do I embark on that like right now? And I can tell you, I work with a lot of clients who are very frustrated because they've been, for lack of a better term, they've been sold a bill of goods. Somebody gets through the story and it's very compelling and they've crafted it really well. And then they get to the point and they're like, maybe you have experienced these things just like I have, and you want a better solution. But the solution that they're offered is, well, for lack of a better term, they're selling a bill of goods. They're promising you a result that maybe they've actually seen that result, but what they offer you to get to that result doesn't really work that way. There are a whole lot of people who have joined up with programs or signed up to get a particular service, and when they get engaged with the actual service deliverer, they realize the service delivery gives you a whole lot of instructions and maybe a couple of tools to work with, but it's still on you to figure it out. We, for a long time, received a box, and I don't want to say the brand name because it's not really a bad thing, but it was a box that had food in it. And I don't mean like a delivery from the grocery store. I mean like it was a meal or sometimes 2 meals. But it would show up with uncooked foods and you had to put it all together. And it was as if Grandma went to the grocery store for you and said, you need one of these and some of this and a little of those, and we'll get some of these and we'll throw them all in a bag and then come home and she puts it on your counter. She's like, okay, make dinner. You're like, I don't know what to do with arugula and asparagus. What kind of meal is that going to make? Oh, there's a chicken. Okay, so I have arugula, asparagus, and chicken. What do I do with that? How do I make a meal out of that? And it was kind of like that. But there were supposed to be, every time the box came, there was supposed to be directions. And I don't just mean like a recipe. Use 2 cups of this and 5 quarts of this and mix them together. It was like directions. Put the chicken in a pan. Cook it at this temperature. Add these ingredients. Okay, it was a 45-minute prep time. I'm thinking to myself, for what I spent on the box, and now I got to go through the prep time to put it together, I could have just whipped up a stew or something out of the pantry with a lot less effort and a lot less expense. Or I could have gone to Olive Garden and split a meal for half the cost of this box of goodies. But there's something about getting these fresh, home-cooked meals in the home that makes you feel like you're doing something good for yourself. The instructions were so complicated and so convoluted, it was a commitment to read them and then to follow them, and then to do everything to get a meal that you could have got at Boston Market. Many coaches, many service providers kind of have the same challenge, and that is the instructions they're going to give you are so complicated, so convoluted that most people are just like, can you just do it for me? Well, the challenge is, without a call to action, none of that takes place. You may tell a story, you may get to a good point, and then at the end they come to you and they're like, so how did you get the results that you have? Oh, well, I did this. Well, should I do that? Well, yeah, you should do that. But I mean, you could pay me to do that, or you could pay me to teach you how to do that. Oh, okay, well, I didn't know that was an option. I mean, I didn't know that you actually taught people to do that, or helped people to do that, or sold the service of doing that for people. But the other thing that I found in this industry in the last 14 years is that there are a whole lot of people who will tell you what you need to do, but very few offer all of it. Some offer this little sliver, and some offer this little sliver, and some offer this little sliver, and some of those slivers are sold together, meaning if you work with this person, you get a discount working with this person. If you work with the 2 of them together, you get a discount working with this person. But no one of them does all of it. And the ones that do all of it, well, you can expect to spend $60,000, $70,000 to have them do it for you. But even then, they're going to come to you and go, well, have you done this part, this part, this part, and this part? And you're like, well, no, I didn't know I had to do that. Well, yeah, you have to have that done before we can do our part. Oh, well, who does A, B, and C? You just have to figure that out on your own. I mean, we can show you some examples, but you still have to do it yourself. You have to hire a graphic designer. You have to hire a wordsmith or ChatGPT or something of that nature to come up with all the dialogue that's going to be the text on your website. And then we'll help you decide how much of that is SEO. Oh, by the way, who's your target audience? Oh, by the way, how are you going to profit from this conversation or this content? See, the call to action from the leader or the communicator can't be that convoluted. It's got to be simple. The old sales method, feel, felt, found. I know how you feel because I used to feel the same way. I felt just like that. Here's what I found. I know how you feel. That's how I felt. Here's what I found. And here's what I found is usually the prescription, if you will, of what somebody should do next. I found this solution. I found that when I ABC, when I do this, I get this result. You should do this, you'll get the same result. The result is the impact, it's the influence, it's the transformation, it's the change, it's the desired outcome, the result. But what you got to do before you get that result, well, that's on you. That's the call to action. The challenge for a lot of people's call to action is either A, it's non-existent, or B, it's so convoluted nobody knows what to do with it. Or after they start talking about a call to action, here's what you need to do. They come right into that call to action and they start lacing in their credentials and their credibility. I will help you do this. You need to sign up for this program to get this result. You need to buy this new car because it will make you look sexy and powerful and rich. You need to move into this kind of neighborhood because it will make you feel like you're successful and you've accomplished things, and it will tell the world how important you are. You need to sign up for this program because it's going to help you to find all the new customers that you need to. You're going to advertise in this place because it's going to bring you more clients. Whatever that do this, get this kind of thing is, the next step has to be engagement. There's got to be a means for them to get there. I want you to read this book. It's on the table back there. I want you to sign up for this class. The sign up form is right here. I want you to join this new program. Well, the sign up for that new program is right here. I want you to marry this person or not marry that person. But there's got to be a step by step right after that. The challenge for a lot of people when it comes to their call to action is they give you a step, but it's not the step by step by step. It's not do this thing, get this result, or even do this thing now, here's the opportunity. Now, how do I know this? Because I've done it myself on both sides. I've been the one that they said, do this thing and get this result. And I ran to the back of the room with my credit card and I threw it down and I went through the whole program and I got to the end and I did not get the same result that they promised. And somewhere along the way, I realized, okay, what they promised was a little unclear, and I did get some result out of it. I did get something. I did see a transformation in my life. I did learn things I didn't know before, but I'm not getting the kind of results. And somewhere along the way, I have to look at that and go, okay, what did I not do completely? Where did I give 70% of my effort as opposed to 110%? Where did I not make the sacrifices necessary to get the results that I wanted? I didn't get as slim as I wanted after the coach said, well, you need to do 100 push-ups a week. If you're not doing 100 push-ups a week, you're not going to get the results you want. Well, I did 50. Why didn't I get the results I wanted? Because you only played half in. You didn't play all out. You got to be willing to go all in and whatever you're going to get the results of. So I know that I have invested. I've followed the call to action and not fully engaged with the call to action. One of the coaching programs I belong to says right in the contract, these are the results you'll get if you play all out. If you don't play all out, we're not responsible for your failed outcome. We will deliver you all the goods that we promised you. Here's the list. You put in the money, you get out this list. If this list produces phenomenal results for you, we'd love to have a testimonial. If it doesn't, let us know and we'll try to walk you through the process of what you're missing. But if you get this list and you do nothing, that's on you. That's like saying you have a gym membership and you didn't go. Well, going to the gym and signing up doesn't make you skinny. Going to the gym and walking around looking at everybody else doesn't make you skinny. Going to the gym and getting on the treadmill, picking up the weights, joining the classes, stretching with the yoga people, whatever it is you're going to do, get into Pilates, get into the cardio fit class, whatever you're going to do, you got to show up. You got to invest, you got to show up, you got to do the work if you're going to get the results. The challenge for a lot of people's call to action is the call to action kind of makes a direct bridge between the investment and the outcome, and it doesn't explain all the steps between. Now, I'm not saying that when you're on the platform, when you're on the call, when you're on the webinar, you've got to detail all of those things. The first step is to get them motivated and inspired through the story, to make a point that they feel like is relevant and you've made an investment and you clearly articulate what the investment will be. and then a very clear process on how to get there from here, right? I want you to join this program. If you want this result, and this result, then I want you to run to the back of the room and be the first to sign up. I only have room for X. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is my own personal, as a coach. When I do the Story Power Masterclass, I never let more than 15 people in that class because it's emotionally deep. Most people cry in that class, not because I'm being mean to them or rude to them, but because we start digging into the stories of your life. And as we dig into them, it gets really emotionally intense. People tell stories they probably haven't told anywhere else. They hear stories from people that really challenge the way they think and what they believe about the world, and it gets really emotionally intense. That's part of the process. Now, the result is that these 15 people walk away with a new understanding of story. And those who dig a little deeper, and we coach over a period of time, most of my clients 90 days, some longer, but most of the clients in 90 days, we dig really deep into every story. Why did you use that word? What does that mean? What do you expect people to do when you're done talking? Do you have a simple call to action for that story? Or does this story only work when it's in conjunction with 10 other stories and the call to action is the summary of all of them together? All of those things we work through with all of the clients, and there's a call to action for every one of them. And I have a very specific lane. I don't build websites for people. Oh, I can help you with your video and video production. I have all the equipment to do that. I have the know-how to do that. But most of what I do is the coaching on the communication of the story. I look at every story from the call to action. What is the best benefit? Why are you telling the story in the first place? What's the outcome that the hearer will receive best? And if you find yourself in the place like the story that we mentioned earlier that was a phenomenally told story, it was a well-told story, it's a very interesting story, but literally when the teller got to the end, they said, I'm not even sure why the whole thing happened. I don't understand the point of the story. I don't know why I went through that journey, through that discovery. I don't know what to do with this story. Which means everybody listening had exactly the same outcome. Fascinating story, but what do I do with it? Where does it fit in my life? See, my one-on-one coaching clients, if that was a client, I would not have gotten all the way to the end of that story without a point. We would have started with, what is the call to action? What do you want them to do? Do you offer something to them that's going to bring about life transformation for them? Is it a retreat? Is it a class? Is it a course? Is it a book? Is it advice? Is it getting a new job? Is it how to keep the job they have? What is it that you're offering them that's going to make a change or a transformation in their life? Now let's find the story that resonates with that audience that brings them to the point of understanding why they need what you offer. That's how we craft stories. And every one of those stories are original. Every one of those stories are unique. Every one of those stories are personal, true, authentic, original. That's what my work is. If they say to me, I need you to build a website, I need you to build a funnel, I need you to build a sales downline, I need you to build the back office for me, I don't do that. I can tell you what you need because I've been in the industry long enough. I can point you to the people who do that, but that's not what I do. And it doesn't matter how much you pay me or how much you offer to pay me. That's not my expertise. It's not my lane. That's not my space. I'll advise you to somebody. I'll point you to people who can help with your big ticket offer, who can help you with your funnel. My job is to help you master the communication in that 2 to 5 minutes, maybe even to stack it into a full speech. But to help you build that communication that draws your audience in, that leads them to believe that you're credible and competent and that you have the credentials to be able to do this work, that you are going to get the results. And through the course of the stories that we craft, your audience will understand that that's true. And I will challenge you. If I feel like the call to action that you're offering is a fluffy offer of promises that you can't deliver on, I'm going to tell you that. If I feel like the credentials, the credibility that you have don't demonstrate what you plan to offer, I'll tell you that. Not because I want to hurt your feelings, but because I want your call to action to be successful, both for you as a business owner and a business builder and an influencer, and for the people who sign up under your program to go, I got the results that I was expecting. That was incredible. It was off the charts. If you have a call to action and it's not clear enough for people to take action, what are you calling them to? If you've told a story and it doesn't make a point, how will they ever get to the call to action? But if you tell a great, engaging, emotional story that causes people to go, You get me. That's exactly how I feel. And then you demonstrate that's how I felt until I found the solution. And my point is, you need the same solution I had. Then you can also take them to a call to action and say, if you believe that we felt the same and now you need the same solution, here's what you got to do next. Scan the QR code. That's the first step. Get engaged somehow. Send me an email. Send me a private message. Now, I'm going to tell all of you who are watching right now. If you feel like the stories that you're telling are just not landing the way you want them to, if you feel like the story could be a little better, or you could have chosen a better story to actually connect with that audience, or it would have been better to have a series of stories so you could rotate them out as the audience changes, but they all lead to the same point. They all lead to the same program, the same offer, the same call to action, then I would be delighted to help with you. That my job is to help people tell better stories better. And if you go to STORYPOWERcoach.com, you'll find ways to engage with me. You can book a free call right there. We'll get on the phone, we'll chat together and see if we're a good fit. I only take on about 10 customers at a time, and right now I have 7. So there's a little bit of room left, but actually I have 8. There's a little bit of room left. I can take on 1 or 2 new customers at this time until this season is over, probably end of April. But you can get on the wait list. If you want one-on-one attention, it's not cheap, but it's good. It's going to change your life. It's going to change the way you communicate. I can promise you that. There's plenty of evidence, plenty of people you can talk to ask the question. STORYPOWERcoach.com is where you want to go. Check it out. See if I'm a good fit for you. Let's have a call. That, my friends, is a call to action. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.
Thank you.